Welcome to Shooting the Ish. Hello.
Hello.
What's going on?
Not much, man. A lot of big things happening in the news.
Oh, what's the biggest?
Well, Escape Plan came out last time I checked.
Yes. Oh my God. That was interesting. Did you see that?
You'd have to pay me top dollar to go see that.
I saw it, and it was very bad and very entertaining.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's what you would expect from a Sly Schwarzenegger film. It's just a mashup anyway, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
felt
it was fun.
I felt like I felt like I was, certain parts were like Expendables. There were so many bad cheesy lines, but it was so funny. It was like you were watching a very entertaining B movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And you know what cracks me up in terms of like the box office polls as of now, I think Gravity's still holding on to the top spot. And this is still like, like Escape Plan is like pulling in like a dismal couple mil.
Well, I mean, no, I don't think anyone thought that was going to make a lot of money. I mean, people are going to go see it.
Well, they wanted to know what film coming out this week was going to knock out Gravity off the top spot, and yet so far none of them.
Well, George, you were saying something interesting. You were saying you think that the audience for Sylvester Stallone and Arnold isn't getting any younger, meaning that the people who are watching their movies are the same people that were watching their movies as kids.
Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's just how it works. Like for instance, The Rock, he made all those kids movies, and he'll have an audience till the day that those people are dead.
Yeah, but The Rock made like legitimate kids movies. Then again, did Arnold do that? Was like Kindergarten Cop a legitimate kids movie?
He did that later. The Rock did it first, which was interesting.
Well, he didn't start off doing those kids movies. He did The Rundown. He did Be Cool. He did Scorpion King. Walking Tall. Yeah, he didn't start off with kids movies either. But that's what he decided to make money through kids movies, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's true. We need a rock-themed Christmas movie like Jingle All the Way was.
I know.
That was good.
But speaking of wrestling, there was a lot of funny... I guess Sylvester Stallone is like the original guy who brought like wrestling selling onto film, because you remember Rocky 3 and 4 are basically like wrestling cartoons where you have Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. But then you also have a lot of like, if you get hit, you fly across the ring. Your bad guys are 7 feet tall and ethnically stereotyped, stuff like that.
No, that's true.
He definitely influenced like, Street Fighter and everything that came afterwards. In terms
Thank you very much,
he always like any Sylvester Stallone movie with punching. They have awesome sound effects for the punching. It sounds like ribs are breaking with every shot.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Like missiles being fired or some shit.
Yeah, in terms of wrestling itself, the first fight that they had, well, two things. First of all, the plot is basically that. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Sylvester Stallone his job is to break out of jail, so his job is to go to jail and figure out a way to break out of it. But someone's double-crossed him, so he gets sent to the most secret, hard-to-break-out-of-jail on Earth, where he meets Arnold, and Arnold befriends him. But Arnold tells him that they basically have to have a series of fake fights so they could convince the people in charge that they don't like each other, or so that they could gain access to, like, secret places. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, in the first... So it's about fake fighting, and there's times where Arnold even stabs him, but it's all, for the purposes of being... for the effect, to gain access to the medical ward or one of these things. But in the first fight, Arnold Schwarzenegger actually wrestling suplexes Sylvester Stallone.
Really?
No, I mean, to the guys that did see it, did it look ridiculous seeing, Arnold suplexing Sly?
It looked kind of cool. I mean, well, that's because it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. Well, they had to get into fights, but in this secret jail that they were put into, I mean, everybody was like a nice guy.
Yeah, it was weird. They even had, they even had like a Muslim Brotherhood gang in jail.
Really?
Yeah.
And and somehow they befriend him. And it was kind of interesting that Sly basically put a Muslim guy as an action hero lead in a movie, a quite religious Muslim guy. I don't think I've ever seen that in a movie before.
Yeah, because usually playing bad guys, like in one film that's off the top of my head is True Lies, unfortunately.
That movie's awesome.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of the way that entertainment works. You know, whatever group comes to the country, they usually get a bad rap for a while, and then they start. You know, you always debut as a bad guy. You never debut as a good guy. If you debut as a good guy, no one likes it. Everyone will boo it. Everyone will say it's cheesy.
I mean, with Hollywood, it's always been to me like a racial version of Tag. You're it. Who's the bad guy now? You know,
right?
I mean, initially, it was like the Germans, and you know, so occasionally you'd get like some black people being bad guys. Like if you watch like Live and Let Die, for instance, and you know. And obviously, the Chinese and the Japs and all that. But
the black thing is kind of an exception to this rule in terms of people coming into the countries because of the fact that they were here from the beginning and there was inequality from the beginning. So there, you have that weird, we even learned about it first day of certain classes of school in terms of film characters. There was like, okay, here's this character, here's this stock character, here's this type character. And then there's a character that seems to have no character, but he's called the Magical Negro. And it's more of like a political thing, and it's like, wait a second, that character doesn't seem to have any real purpose of storytelling like those other characters do.
Right. Except to help the hero out through his journey, or his or her journey, That's
right. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I guess it's just kind of a weird American thing with the whole tragic past of black and white and all that stuff that, most people coming in will be seen as bad guys at first, and then after a while become good guys, and then that group is treated so differently.
Right. Yeah, I would agree.
Inequality, I guess, continues in a reverse way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's very settled now more than ever. They just, instead of lynching, there's just media lynching, basically, not full-blown lynching.
They also do tell you, though, in I guess film school that or in media or communications or whatever you want to call it, that there's an underrepresentation of crimes in the movies. Like in the movies, you'll see a lot of like white criminals disproportionate to what crimes actually exist.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. Like say for instance, like these superhero films that come out. And it's like the heroes like battling like criminals, like thieves for the most part. A large portion of them are like usually like white thugs for the most part.
Right. Yeah. There's always and South Park actually did an episode about ADT, like those home security systems, and in the commercials it was all white guys breaking into the house, and the thing is they're trying to get you to buy it by saying, "Oh my God, white people are doing rape now."
Right.
So actually, whatever your name is. Get ready for the big surprise.
That is surprising.
That is right. What's next? Austrians are gonna commit home invasions.
No, I don't think they're gonna bother anyone.
Here's a couple other cool things that are that happen in the movie. I mean, the movie itself was bad, but if you were in the mood for like cheesy, fun like action, it was good. Right. Another thing is that Arnold Schwarzenegger had a scene where he was speaking German pretty eloquently, I guess, for like 3 minutes or more.
He was screaming in German, for a while, and I've never heard him screaming in German.
That was like my grandfather. He always had the most broken English accent because he was from Sicily. But when you'd hear him speak in Italian, he was like this beautifully
well-spoken.
Yeah, it was wild. I was like, oh man, this is the guy who seems like he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's just that he doesn't know the language that well.
Right. So basically, Schwarzenegger was getting his inner Nazi on in Escape Plan.
Yeah, he was kicking Sly's ass a lot because it was all like part of their plans, but he was stabbing him, punching him. hurting
Well,
him?
I listen. I would have believed that maybe 30 years ago. Like if they did an escape plan in their heyday,
right?
And Schwarzenegger, was still, buff and all that type of stuff, and Sly respectively, then I probably would have believed that. But now these guys are in their 60s, and I actually believe that Sly in real life could kick Schwarzenegger's ass.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you know what was interesting? It was interesting to see that the average age of this top security prison was about 50 years old. I was looking at it. I don't see any young guys in this jail. That's kind of interesting.
Right. It begs me to ask this question: like, where the hell was Liam Neeson when all this was going down? Because that dude I'm just saying, like, if I just saw his recent film trailer for Non-Stop, where he plays a U.S. Air Marshal, and there's this, for a guy who's 60, he looks pretty good, and he looks like he could still kick ass, and I think he could pretty much take on Schwarzenegger now. More than ever, for the most.
It's interesting to see what's going to happen when these guys die off. Will anyone take their place as the action director? Because one thing with Sly, even though the movie is like a 5 out of 10, if not lower, sort of movie,
right?
The thing is that he knows entertainment. Sylvester Stallone knows entertainment. The movie all built up to a pretty cool climax. It was fun. I don't regret seeing it by any means, even though as dumb as it was. He's just a guy who understands entertainment. And I wonder if anybody would be able to fill those shoes after that. When I go to see Fast and Furious, they put so much money into the movie, but something about it still makes me feel ripped off. Whereas, if I go to a Sly action movie, I'm like, okay, it was dumb, but there was certain little film things that were cool, and it felt like it all had like a nice path to the climax, and I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do you feel? Yeah, you feel like almost as if like there's a certain charm to the melee that transpires within his films.
Yeah, when I go to Fast and Furious,
right. It to me it's like here it is. You have Sly, in his films where there's like there's a message there, but there is some cheesiness that that kind of like makes it fun to watch, and it's not heavy-handed with its message from time to time. And juxtaposed with saying, for instance, like the Fast and Furious franchise, it's like everybody's trying to look cool. Everybody's trying their hardest to look cool.
Yeah, you feel like the movie's pimping itself out, and you feel like you're being pimped out for watching it.
It stinks!
Yeah, and Michael Bay movies are similar. In terms of Fast and the Furious, the ludicrous character, the guy who's kind of gangster but kind of a nerd, was in this movie as 50 Cent took that role.
Oh, my man Curtis Jackson?
He was, so Sly called 50 Cent a digital thug, or what did he call him, George?
He's a techno thug.
A techno thug.
So let me get to, he was like, what are you supposed to be, a techno thug? Like,
no, he was on his team, whatever team that breaks out of jails and whatnot, and he's like, oh, where am I going to find a techno thug like you?
There was some extremely funny lines from Sly and Stallone, including one of the first lines that, Sly and Schwarzenegger. One of the first things Schwarzenegger says to Sly, his character name, or at least one of his character names in the movie, is Portos. So Schwarzenegger goes, Portos, don't become dead. And he also says, if I help you, you break me out. If you leave me, I kill you.
But I hope you leave enough room for my fist, because I'm going to ram it into your stomach!
He didn't say that.
Clearly he did. I was surprised Schwarzenegger didn't make a Three Musketeer joke.
But these movies are fun, and there's something that draws you. And the only person I could see that gets, in terms of a star that draws like this, is The Rock, because no one else is big enough or that much larger than life. Right. And it's going to be sad when these two guys go, because I don't think anyone could fill the void.
Yeah, except maybe, unfortunately, The Rock, and I think Vin Diesel trying it would look stupid.
They need another guy that's big to do this.
Yeah, right. He needs. It's one thing to be big, and another to be charismatic, and no one is more charismatic as of now than The Rock.
It's The Rock, but then who? But here's the thing: The Rock is a star, but he's not necessarily a writer or actor. I don't know what's gonna happen when Sly goes.
Well, I'm sure they have directors who would take up the mantle that Sly
Vin Diesel is never going to come close to either of these two guys because he doesn't want to ever play the bad guy. And I don't know if Stallone has ever played a bad guy in a movie, has he?
Well, if you count the Spy Kids,
I guess. Yeah. All right. Other than that, like,
not that I watched it, but I mean, I remember when it came out, they had Sly as the bad guy. I was like, oh, I'm definitely not going to see that.
Has he ever played a real bad guy in a movie? I don't think I can recall. So maybe he could get to that level at some point. But Vin Diesel never wants to play a bad guy. Like, he always wants to be portrayed as a good guy, which is interesting to me.
Yeah,
being a bad guy is fun.
Yeah, Statham's good. He's more of like a Charles Bronson sort of guy, though.
Mm-hmm. And like, if he came out like 30 years ago, I think he would have fit right in with, like, the Charles Bronsons, the Robert Shaws, those gritty looking guys, who weren't exactly matinee idols. And all that kind of stuff.
Caviezel might be able to be an action movie guy in the future, but he would be more like a Bruce Willis or one of these.
Jim Caviezel?
Yeah, well, he's on Person of Interest now. He was good as the bad guy in this movie.
Oh, he was? Oh,
but he was kind of like a smart bad guy. He wasn't necessarily the toughest bad guy.
No, he was good. He was good.
But it worked, right. Yeah, I mean, I've heard good things about Person of Interest. I have yet to really catch an episode of it, so I might have to check it out one of these days.
I was on one of the early episodes a few years ago. Yeah, it was background.
Well, you're a very interesting person.
Yeah, right.
There was one part, this was funny. There was one part where there was this tomb filling up with water that basically all you'd have to do was swim with the water as it was rising. But for some reason, Sylvester Stallone was sinking just because he couldn't hold on to a ladder. and George was like, why is he sinking? And I said, well, I guess that's what happens when your body's made up of supplements.
It's funny you should mention that it is called the tomb, the prison. That was initially the title for the film. It said they went with this cop out escape plan. I don't know why. I thought the tomb was a much better title.
Yeah. Stallone's arms are just made of veins at this point. Like whenever you see his arms on screen, it's just straight up veins all over his arms. Like, it kind of looks like it's just being held together by veins and skin.
Either that or it looks like the Nile River, but then again.
He also somehow has the curled eyebrow at this point. I don't know if he colors that in. I remember seeing Rambo, it looked like, or Rocky VI, it looked like he was coloring them in. Now it just looks like he's got some sort of weird cut on his eye that makes him look like he's got the people's eyebrow all the time.
He's had like surgery on his face, like plastic surgery throughout the years. But I get it. He probably does. I mean, he's old. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, Brian, what would you do if you were in a high security prison? How would you break out?
I don't think it would be as elaborate as these guys. I guess I'll try to pretend like I'm dead or something like that. Hopefully, I mean, most likely they'll probably incinerate me, and I'll try to figure out if there's any escape route through the incinerator. There you go.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
Through the incinerator?
Well, I mean, they'll try to incinerate my body and all that kind of stuff, but
Well, Brian, let's say you were placed in jail and you had to get out, otherwise you would have been stuck there forever because the people that put you there knew that you were there.
Okay.
What would you do, Brian?
It'll be very elaborate, I'll tell you that much. Something in the vein of Mission Impossible.
Brian, it's me, Chris. I can help you greatly.
Chris will be there for you.
And even if I had an escape plan, it's classified. Sorry.
It's classified. It's classified.
Help a brother out.
I'm surprised you didn't say that in the film.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, I mean, unfortunately, I didn't see Escape Plan. However, I did see a documentary on PBS it was titled Superheroes: The Never-Ending Battle. Okay. And basically, it was them tracing the birth of superheroes back in the 30s and juxtaposing it with, the times that it came out with and during its existence, how America was changing and where they are now, for the most part. And it basically, in terms of like the people that they got Stan Lee to do an interview, Jim Steranko, who created or basically was the writer for S.H.I.E.L.D., which is now spawned a TV series. And what else?
Well, Brian, what was the thing that they said happened in the 30s that sparked that?
Well, it was, for instance, Superman, for instance, came out in 1938, and that was the throes of the Great Depression, and people were pretty much sick and tired of, they were, basically that in terms of having to struggle for food, having to struggle for work, crime being rampant at that time, and basically Superman, became a symbol of hope that, things were going to get better for the most part. But it's interesting that Superman, was basically, a tough as nails vigilante at the time with special abilities. And he was just taking on, like, crooked people like landlords and criminals and whatnot. And a lot of the comic books at the time, or comic book companies at the time, were following suit. And basically, I think around 1939, Detective Comics wanted to come up with an answer to Superman, who was just as equally successful in the form of Batman, who was created by Bob Kane. And Batman, sort of like, he represents, the pulp side of the superheroes.
What do you like a dark one?
What I mean by pulp heroes is like, the people like the Phantom, the Shadow, these guys who were just gritty, not as inspirational as Superman, but they were basically, they followed the underlying myth that crime doesn't pay, if you will.
Right. So I guess the thing is, if they were around back then and they're around now, has something really changed, or are we still in the same economic sort of, like, do they continue to exist just because of bad economic times? Like,
I think like what they were showing was that how comic books have transcended their medium, because now Superman and Batman are known all over the world, and Superman has become a bigger symbol of hope now than he was 75 years ago. You have people in these Middle Eastern countries who are protesting against their crooked government that's in existence, and they're wearing a Superman T-shirt, or they're rocking some Batman costume.
Right.
They basically went from superheroes used to be a joke back in the 40s and 50s into becoming the most accepted pop culture invention.
The prime example of that would probably be Batman being looked at as so silly in the 60s, and now it's the most darkest thing 50 years later.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I guess
forget all this,
I guess in terms of the in terms of the 80s, it started getting darker in the 80s, right?
Oh yeah.
And then hey, that goes hand in hand with the rise of corporatism, I suppose.
Right, and to basically strengthen your statement, that's why a lot of changes, like for instance with Superman, Lex Luthor went from being a mad scientist to being a crooked corporate businessman, that came out of the Reagan era, if you will. Because, it was a lot of super spending and a lot of what was I looking for? Like, not a lot of government restrictions, so these corporate giants could get away with a lot more things than in the 80s. Yeah,
it's easy for us, I guess, who live in America, to say, comic books used to be good, or even another thing that reflects, that has such villains and heroes like wrestling, like, oh yeah, it died off, it's not good anymore, or it's not around anymore, or no one cares about it, when really in other countries it is actually booming, or they're learning about it, or they're kind of seeing that those concepts work for their society just like they worked for our society.
Right. And now remember, the comic book medium is not, in terms of like the paperbacks that they're selling, they're not, big sellers as they used to be.
Right.
Now these companies are going through the digital age, and, they're selling their comic books via internet. So, I mean, it's just basically with the power of movies and also video games now that the world is gaining more exposure to these iconic characters.
It's got to be confusing for someone seeing Batman for the first time and learning about it, because they're like, wait, Joker killed his father. No, this guy killed his father. It's like there's so many different incarnations and retroactive continuity where they're just kind of winging it with a general story in the moment to sell some comics that over the course of time there's no like continuous storyline. But then again, how could there be? That Batman would be a 100-year-old man by now.
Right. So these characters are timeless. So I think as long as the mission is constant for these respective characters, I don't really think it matters. As long as they are still an inspiration to people all over the world. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So, do you think there's a difference between DC Comics and Marvel? Is DC more about that hope and sort of stuff?
I mean, it's interesting because, like back in the 50s and 60s, DC Comics, they were still like the biggest company, and Marvel was the upstart, even though Marvel morphed in from Timely Comics, and they were, at that time, during the 50s and 60s, were churning out westerns, horror, crime, comic books, and then Stan Lee, with the invention of the Fantastic Four, ushered in a whole new age with, the Silver Age heroes who basically were heroes with, people problems.
Yeah, but I see it feels like in
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, like initially DC Comics, they were more, they talk like their parents, whereas, Marvel, talk like the young adults of the time. And they both, evolved over time, and I can't really so much tell. It's like, what I'm saying is that they basically are one and the same to me at this point.
The villains are both reflective of things that are going on in society that people aren't, poor people don't like at the moment.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
All right. What about Spider-Man? Well, I mean, Spider-Man is seen as like the third biggest comic book thing besides like Batman and Superman, right? At least in terms of individual hero.
Mm-hmm.
What is how did that get its rise, and why do you think people associate with Spider-Man?
I think it has to do with his relatability. It has to do with his relatability in terms of like dealing with like problems that people have gone through, like the girl trouble, the job problems, family problems, financial problems. Spider-Man goes through that, and the beauty of Spider-Man is not so much Spider-Man himself, or the alter ego, it's Peter Parker, and what he has to endure while he's leading a double life as a superhero and as a regular guy.
And why do you think that the top three comic book guys, the Batman, Spider-Man, and Superman, collectively all have a version of New York as their home base?
It's an excellent question. I mean, Superman started off with Metropolis because at the time you had Flash Gordon, you had Buck Rogers, and these guys were space. These are guys who were flung into space, and they basically fight for their respective, planets.
Right.
Whereas, Superman, came from another planet and fights for us, and his home base is in an urban city, and that kind of ushered in, the template or the archetype, the blueprint for the other superheroes to follow. I mean, it seems that Spider-Man, with the help of Stan Lee, was very influential in using New York as a backdrop. And when you look at those comic books, now, there's a sense of realism in terms of him going into a school where blacks and whites were going, and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't like, Peter Parker's just going to an all-black school, to try and, teach them X, Y, and Z. It was a living, breathing city, for the most part.
Right. So it's the fact that maybe New York has, because the population is so diverse, is that
population? You're right. It's the population is and how diverse it is, and there's a certain charm to it. Seeing these superheroes flying around these skyscrapers.
Yeah, I guess Batman then just deals with the filth of what it's like to be in an in a city.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, it's like that's the darker version of New York, if you will. I mean, also it's funny, we forget that New York City also had the nickname of Gotham,
right?
Just being known as the Big Apple. So, but yeah, in order to reflect Batman's world, they have to make it darker, or else why the hell would he exist?
Why is because me and George are from Queens. Why is Peter Parker? Did they ever say why they made him from Queens?
No, I didn't say that in the doc, but I do find that interesting that he's based out in Queens. They lives there, and I forgot what school he goes to, but he obviously works for the Daily Bugle, And,
right. Maybe it is the diversity thing, because Queens is like the most diverse couple miles on Earth.
Right, and I'm quite sure most of the writers were probably, living in Queens and or in the city respectively. So, they didn't really
That's probably what it was when that came out.
Oh, with the Tobey Maguire version, yeah. So,
it wasn't set in Queens before that, correct?
No, it was just basically in the city strictly.
But where did? Right, they never said that until the Tobey Maguire movie came out that Spider-Man was from Queens.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what's that called again?
The doc is called Superheroes: A Never-Ending Battle, and it was airing on PBS.
That's kind of cool. It's kind of cool how PBS starts to pick up on stuff like that,
Right, and it's narrated by Lee Schreiber, who pretty much takes everything from all other potential voiceover actors.
Okay.
No, just a little tidbit there. That's all.
One thing real quick about comic books, is it true that reading them gives you a headache? I read something that says because you're looking at the pictures and because you're also reading the text, that both sides of your brain are working at once, and that creates like a kind of like a brain freeze effect.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I have yet to read that article, and being a comic book reader for X amount of years, I have not encountered that situation where I've had a brain freeze. So,
do you ever go to comic book conventions?
No, but I have a lot of friends that do. And those things are huge now as opposed to when they first started. It's crowded, and it's a big moneymaker, and Hollywood is started using it to exploit their latest projects now. So.
Yeah, I know. There's everything is like a comic book movie in Hollywood now.
Oh yeah, and then what even cracks me up is that now you have TV shows that have no comic book affiliation going to these things now.
What do you mean?
Well, for instance, Breaking Bad, which
right. They go to Comic-Con. They have a panel there.
I was gonna say Walking Dead, but Walking Dead is actually based off a comic book. So, but Breaking Bad mainly, and like Lost, when Lost had its heyday, they would go to these conventions and rent out a space to showcase, the latest seasons.
Well, if you ever need to build a quick, rabid fan base, go to Comic-Con, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of the link, I guess, real quick, between wrestling and comic books, there's actually a guy who does Lucha Libre stuff down in Mexico as Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Spider-Man wrestles in Mexico.
Oh,
and
nice.
I think Spider-Man in Mexico has been sued.
Spider-Man by who? By Marvel?
I think he was in trouble for using the image and likeness of Spider-Man.
Right, which is already trademarked by Marvel, right?
Hey, brother.
What? Yes?
But it's funny.
I hate to intrude.
Okay.
His name is Vince McMahon.
Who?
Hey, I'm from New York.
All right, please stop whatever that is. Real quick.
But it got to the end. What was interesting about nearing the end of the doc is that they actually even like focused on how now you have real life superheroes, like guys that actually dress up and fight crime, and how they were inspired by these comic book superheroes.
Oh right, yeah. There was one in Seattle, I believe, where these guys their base was a comic book shop. And they were going out, but sadly, most of the time they were getting their ass kicked.
Yeah, just kicked, right.
And then they started complaining that it was very easy to figure out their base was the comic book shop, so now the criminals were coming by the comic book shop to kick their ass. They put out a complaint that they were getting their ass kicked too much by the cops, by the criminals, and then everyone said, well, you're a superhero, you shouldn't worry about that.
Next time we'll get to rust you stupid fools.
All right. What do you call it? Also in Britain, there was a guy who was recently, I think we did it on the show, he dressed up like Batman and he caught a criminal and brought him to the police station. A guy who had a warrant.
What a brave soul.
Hey, real quick, George, let's get into your news, okay? But real quick, I want to give a shout out, a birthday shout out to someone who's left some messages for our show before. He was most recently talking about Minecraft on the show. Mm-hmm. It's Patrick, a.k.a. Captain Crap. Happy 16th birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday, sir. If you're listening somewhere out there, you might remember this.
My phone.
Yes, that was his troll on Xbox making fun of him. Captain Craps, spelled with the I before the A. I guess he couldn't get the other one. It's CAPTIAN and then the word crap, all one word. He's on Xbox Live if you want to connect and play with him. And he is the man at games, so if he kicks your butt, don't be upset. But happy birthday, Captain Crap, Patrick.
Happy birthday, yeah. He's getting old, as are we. All right. Well, I have a clip here. Well, this is the news. I have a clip here from a New York City cop berating a street vendor.
Yeah.
That's actually very interesting. So here, take a listen.
Listen. Go for it. I don't care.
It's all right.
Go for it.
Wait a second. Time out. George.
The cop is the female.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if you can distinguish male and female at this point, the cop is the female. I should have said that because you can't really tell. Okay.
Right. All right.
Let's see if son of a bitch.
George, what happened? I was expecting your news intro. I was expecting your news sound effects.
Yeah, so was I, but obviously my computer cannot handle all this stuff. It's too excited.
Brian, can you sing him a little news intro? Welcome to the evening news with George.
No, that's exactly what I was going to do. All right, we're starting this over.
Oh,
I know my
for news. There's a problem with the feed. There's
all news all the time. This is 1010 Wins. You give us 22 minutes. We'll give you the world.
Okay.
I've heard that shit before.
This is not 1010 Wins, but go on.
It's as good as we're gonna get. So
this is 1010 Loses. Go on.
Here on this bright sunny day in October, I, George, am reporting the news to you. So I have a clip here of a New York City cop, a female New York City cop, apparently berating
lady cop,
a New York City street vendor. And I don't know exactly what the situation is, but here you should really take a listen and see what this cop has to say.
Listen. Go for it. I don't care.
It's all right.
Go for it. Go for it.
There's a hot dog. Wow, you are a maniac. What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
You gotta stop acting up like this. Yo, you are really gonna...
Blow me, bitch. Blow me.
Man, I miss
Blow me.
So she gives the street vendor the international hand in the middle of the elbow. F you.
I miss living in New York, and we got the RoboCops out here that don't say a word and don't have any they wouldn't even have an argument with you because that would mean they think they're showing a sign of weakness, inhuman shit that goes on out here.
No, it's just lack of personality in general. The people that are from here.
Have you seen them say come quietly or there will be trouble?
Oh, they when you get pulled over, it's so creepy the way they act. I've even tried to have conversations with some of them, and they just stare at you. Are you a human? Are you what's going on here? Now, truly, there's been some that have been nice, for sure. But in general, they seem to have the vibe that they'll just stare at you funny. One time I saw a hit and run, and I said to an officer was driving by, and I waved him down. I said, "Hey, I'm just letting you know I saw a hit and run. You might have to go, handle that because it seems like they're chasing each other down the street, the two cars." And he was like, too much paperwork, and he just drove away. And I was like, "Oh, that's
nice." Too much paperwork.
Too much paperwork.
Too much paperwork.
Have a nice day.
Be well, citizen. Cops in LA are like the cops in Elysium sometimes.
Oh yeah. Staying with some East Coast news, on a brighter note, gay weddings are going to start to be legal in New Jersey on Monday. This video I'm watching is ridiculous. Gay weddings are going to be legal in New Jersey on Monday.
Is that the theme song for gay weddings?
I think so.
Really beloved.
So apparently, the priest is going to wear his priest necklace and then thong. Other than that, nothing else.
If we were an accredited news show, you'd have to apologize for that comment, but go on.
Mm-hmm. Well, so starting this Monday, New Jersey, they're going to be legal. The highest court ruled against a delay filed by everyone's favorite governor, Chris Christie.
So Chris Christie does not like gay marriage.
He's against it, and he had filed for a delay. And
what
apparently,
is he for? He's for sandwiches, right? He likes hoagies.
Sandwiches, I mean, Jersey is close to Philly, probably Philly cheesesteaks. He definitely loves steakhouses, stuff like that,
Yeah,
he could probably learn some help tips from a gay man.
So one of Christie's spokespersons said that he doesn't like it, but he will comply.
What does that mean?
You tell me. I guess what choice does he have if the highest court
you gotta be
ruled against it? Right. If ruled for it, if the highest court said doesn't matter what you're doing, we're making this legal. So he didn't have to say anything, but him being bigger than life, he had to say something. Maybe he's going to be the next action star.
Well, unfortunately, he won't be because he's not bigger than heart disease. So.
Even mean. By the way, in other news, I heard that Cory Booker has a Senate seat that he won recently.
What are you talking? Who's this?
Cory Booker. He was running for the Senate seat for New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken.
Wait, what's the deal with that? I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that.
Well, you're hearing it now. So.
Well, Brian, what's the story here? Who is Cory Booker? What's he do? What is this?
He was, I believe he was a mayor of Newark. And Newark is known for being a crime-ridden city for the most part.
I see.
Yep. In addition to that, he also was able to save people from a fire. I think this was maybe a couple of months or years ago, and it was highly publicized when the news broke out. So that guy,
Well,
okay, well, good for Cory Booker. On to news.
Oh, wait a second. Wait. I guess these people, because of YouTube and everything, these people who do heroic acts might start getting public office.
Well, yeah, that also helps.
He might. I mean, everybody's a celebrity these days, and all these politicians want to be celebrities too. But there was a study. From the Connecticut College News, actually, that states Oreos are as addictive as cocaine.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
It is the chocolate chip kind. You may have to do now. Betrayed me so.
Play this song.
Apparently,
Play this song.
They tested Oreos against coke, cocaine in rats.
You go showing and me hunger growing. Let's get skin no throwing. We'll start this snack going, baby. Hey, me just met you, and this is crazy. But you got cookie, so share it, baby. It's hard to look at your snack, baby. But you got cookie, so share it, baby.
So apparently the rats didn't want to share the cookies because they tested. They put the rats in a maze, right? And on one side they put rice cakes and saline, and on the other side, rice cakes and saline, right? Like, who the fuck would want to eat that shit?
Saline, like contact solution? It tastes
yeah,
terrible.
yeah, like that. Like, people inject saline into, like, you can drink saline, nothing's going to happen to you. And on the other side, they put Oreos, cocaine, and morphine.
What is this, Grand Theft Auto of science?
Yeah, so basically, the study showed that the rats that went to the Oreos spent as much time with the Oreos and didn't want to have anything to do with anything else as the ones that. As the ones that went to the drugs.
Yeah, I think Sesame Street was onto something in that portraying a food junkie on their show.
I mean, think about it. Now they're saying
this news might raise Sesame Street's rating to TVMA.
No, the rats, obviously you're thinking that the rat's going to be attracted to the cookie over the drugs because it's food, right? But the rats were injected with drugs. So they already had that in their system, so they would know where to find it if they had to.
Very nice what we do to our fellow mammals out there.
Yeah, what are you going to do? But the funny thing is, the rats, when they went to the Oreos, they ate them like we do. They cracked them in half and started eating the cream.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So that's funny. And apparently they did tests, like neurological tests, and basically whatever activates your brain when you're doing drugs, the same signs were shown on the rats that were eating the Oreos. So you get the same signals of happiness or like loftiness that you would get when you're getting high as you would when you're eating sugar and cookies. And Chris, I think you know that because Chris's drug of choice is sugar and cookies.
Yeah, that's true. I'm completely clean other than poor food choices. Yeah, I was reading another article, and it also had to do with mice. And maybe it might have been like the first findings of that same study. And it was saying that they basically had a cage full of rats, and whatever rats became addicted to sugar, their total quality of life went down, from their health to their want to gain more territory in the rat cage to their sexual lust. Everything, like their whole life was, they're like, nah, fuck it, I'm just going to eat the sugar for a while.
Yeah.
That was like it, and it was so scary to read that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And sticking with animals and the East Coast, apparently, Chris, you might appreciate this.
You're saying I'm an animal from the East Coast?
you might appreciate this, Chris, because 2 cows escaped en route to a New Jersey slaughterhouse.
Good.
And in Patterson, New Jersey.
Laverne and Shirley. Or who was that famous bank robbing couple?
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde of cows.
So these cows were on the way to becoming burgers.
You're gonna make me cry with that song.
At Chipotle.
That's right, Joe from Ronkonkoma. I have a heart.
And they escaped. They escaped the slaughterhouse, but they were found later, and guess what? They were eventually slaughtered.
No, they need to stop doing that. Any cow that attempts to break out, they need to let go. Just like that story. I don't know how true that story is, but they said there was a story where a cow was crying right before it was going to get slaughtered, and they let it go or something.
You had said that. I remember that.
I don't know if that story's true.
I mean, cows have big eyes. I'm sure they leak things sometimes. I don't necessarily think it was crying.
I think I'm going to stop eating beef. I eat chicken. I've been eating chicken recently.
I will never stop eating beef. It's delicious. I'm sorry. Well, it's delicious.
When we die and we see that God is a cow, you're going to be quite upset.
Well, since since we're talking about Chipotle and beef, Chipotle is actually introducing a vegan option to their menu, some sort of a veggie patty, a vegan option, and they've been recorded record profit numbers this year, and they're actually raising prices for everybody.
Yeah, because we see when we have a choice, why would you kill something if you have a choice not to?
By the way, Chris, it's funny you should mention, like, you know, if God was a cow, then I guess Moses was wrong in us, like, you know, or in the guys, like, worshiping the golden calf. You know, I just realized that.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. It's just that intelligent, sentient beings, or creatures that show intelligence. That's why, you know, if you have the choice, look, if you have no food, you're going to eat the cow, but if you have a choice, why would you eat a cow? Why would you eat a dolphin? These are smart creatures. They find some studies that say dolphins are smarter than us in a lot of ways.
I mean, it's not a matter of why would you choose to eat something that doesn't have to die. It's just that's how we've been living for ages. I mean, we kill and we eat and we survive. Now we have an option to eat vegetables and be okay with it and be healthy.
Which is nothing new to begin with, just evolved, that's all.
Yeah. All right, well,
the song is breaking me up, please.
All right, I'll shut it down. Okay, there's a new company called Fantex.
Okay.
And basically what they're going to do is start selling stock in athletes.
Really?
If that makes any sense. For example, the first athlete that they signed a contract with is Arian Foster from the Houston Texans. Basically, Fantex is paying him $10 million for a 20% stake in all of his future income.
Ouch.
Including contracts, endorsements, other business revenue, and all that stuff. And then in turn, they will sell stock to people in that player.
Wow.
According to his performance and how he does off the field and whatnot. Like, for example, right now, the highest stock, the equivalent of Apple right now would be LeBron James.
Okay, so well, this is kind of crazy, but I guess, you know, actors and people in the public eye their business is their self in a way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, like just high profile people in general, they have agents, they have publicists, they have lawyers, or they have to pay, you know, just to keep themselves in the public eye and defend themselves from, you know, whatever slander that comes their way. The only thing I hope for this guy who's using Fantex is to not get injured anytime soon.
That's the thing. It's so crazy. It's risky. And the CEO, his name is Buck French, he stated, by building a quote, I quote, by building a marketplace that allows customers to buy shares in a trading stock linked to the value and performance of an athlete's brand, Fantex is enabling a new level of brand advocacy through ownership.
That's a whole lot of mumble jumbo to say the 1984 is approaching quicker than we thought.
Oh, yeah. You know, I don't want to think of it this way, but since most athletes are minorities, I would say it's kind of like ownership. Not slavery, but it's kind of like owning a person. And
well, what the hell was slavery, motherfucker?
But, well, just the thing is, when you're at work in a corporate environment, things are so completely controlled. So now people own stock in what you do, even when you're technically off the clock. That's kind of like you're at work all the time. That's kind of weird. That means no downtime. People criticizing what you do all the time, which happens already, especially with the Twitter age.
Not criticizing, you're just being scrutinized.
Yeah.
You're scrutinized.
Yeah. The board of directors wants to know why you took 2 Ps this morning instead of 3 Ps. Like,
right.
We don't want you to get any kidney stones, you know.
Right. Or you wait a minute. You know, you basically, you know, did well last Sunday. Why did you take off when there was no bye week? You know what I mean? You know, you have the board of directors like questioning the player in that regard.
Very interesting.
I'm just giving like an example. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. You know, it's kind of like humans. The one thing that differentiates us. I was reading this thing that says, you know, humans have the point of view that they're further evolved than other creatures, but it's not true because evolution's a matter of time. So, if you look at a spider, they're highly evolved. They're just on their own little way, The cat is highly evolved into what a cat has become. But it has its own evolutionary path. And maybe reading a book or using a spoon, the cat doesn't give a shit about that and doesn't need to. So the one thing that sets human apart in terms of how we value our progress as a species is control. How we could use and manipulate and create tools. So it's very good that, we could do great things with that, but then along the way there'll be these road bumps where we're like, wow, we did tool use and control to levels that were inhumane and terrible, and we need to learn from that. And I guess we just have to go through those things to start learning them.
That's true.
That is kind of crazy, though, that you're basically be owned. And the people, the sad thing is everyone's so used to pimping themselves out that the people will be like, yeah, I got that endorsement deal. I'm good.
Right.
No, it's crazy. In other news, the Dodgers were eliminated from the playoffs yesterday.
Yeah,
and,
the people over here are going crazy about the Dodgers in L.A.
Well, they're just not talking about it now because they lost. But they were eliminated from playoff contention. Well, actually, from the playoffs. And St. Louis Cardinals are going to the World Series again.
Well, I have a sore spot in my heart as they beat the Mets that year.
At 2006.
That perfect curveball to Beltran.
The irony. Yeah, I know. People still talk shit about that. I don't care what anybody says. That's a perfect curveball. Even if he swung, he would have missed.
Yeah, that was a perfect curveball.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, Carlos Beltran is now a member of the St. Louis Cardinals, and he contributed big
of course.
Time.
He's been working for those fuckers all along.
No. And I'm a huge Beltran fan. I love him. I love the way he plays. I love the way he conducts himself. He doesn't have a big mouth. He's one of the best postseason hitters in the history of the game, compared to Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio, believe it or not. That's what his statistics have been.
Yeah, he's a statistical player.
I can't believe it. I can't believe what I'm hearing. That's all I gotta say.
It's true. I love Beltran. I've always loved Beltran, from when he was in Kansas City, then to Houston, then to the Mets. He had one bad year with the Mets, and then until the end of his contract when his knees were messed up. He had one bad year with the Mets.
He had a lot of stigma. He had a bad stigma after that 1 year.
Yeah, but that was the first year, because people were booing him, and he's got a big ego, I'd say, and he didn't appreciate that. But after that, he was a 30 and 100 guy every year, 30 home runs, at least 100 RBIs.
Right, that's how he started off in his rookie year, if I'm not mistaken, and that's why he was the year. So yeah,
no, he's
always been good, and in a way, St. Louis, which has a reputation of being a great baseball city, compliments him respectively. So of course he's going to put up big numbers for them. I don't understand why a guy like, for instance, say Pujols would leave a town like that just to go, elsewhere for the money. And obviously I know it's for the money, but they were gonna build fucking statues in his name.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that's the type of baseball town St. Louis is.
Absolutely.
I mean? Yeah, and
he wanted the money. Pujols wanted more money, and it's not like St. Louis was offering him a bad contract. They offered him 6 or 7 years for something like near $200 million, which is disgustingly insane money. And he said no, because he wanted a 10-year contract, and that's what the Angels gave him for $275, something crazy like that.
Right.
And is that what it was?
Right. It was something ridiculous. It's not in the 300 range, but it is.
It's not. That. Yeah, it's close.
It's over 200, right? And now he's collecting it despite being injured. And they're going to try. And now Anaheim is trying to figure out. Or excuse me, is it Los Angeles Angels or Anaheim?
The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
Anaheim Angels of Angeles Los.
Well, anyway, they're probably trying to figure out how the hell to dump that salary, or give it to another team for the most part. Yeah,
that they're in the second year of a pretty bad contract. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. They're going to look like A-Rod. This is what Pujols is singing right now. Well, he's driving down the 405. He's like, oh shit.
With the car with hydraulics. Oh no.
He's making his money. I don't think he cares at this point.
Oh, why should he? Yeah. man. So fun.
Anything else going on?
I read a report about California attempting to legalize pot in 2016, and I read the article, and it doesn't say anything other than it's going to attempt to legalize pot in 2016. And I figured that's been the same story for the past 10 years. So I don't know what has.
Yeah, that's like Ghostbusters 3 is greenlit. That story comes up every year or two.
I know.
It's more likely now than ever that Ghostbusters will be made.
Yeah.
They're gonna start shooting real soon.
I don't know how many times I've seen this report. Bill Murray, who has previously said no, now says yes.
I know, and every time I get excited like a little goddamn kid at Christmas, and then nothing happens a year later.
I've been reading that report since like 2006. That Bill Murray says yes, and it's on.
Yeah.
Hey, listen.
Yeah, he must enjoy fucking with like the fans. I'll tell you that much. In that regard.
If it ever does happen, I'm gonna be happy as fuck. And until
I don't know. Even if you're not a fan of video games, you should pick up and I think it's even on the PC. You should play Ghostbusters, the game, the one that came out in the late 2000s. It is basically a third movie. The script for it is 1,000 pages. It has Bill Murray on it. It has all the voice actors besides Louis Tully, unfortunately. But it's basically like a third movie. It happened 2 years after Ghostbusters 2. Dana Barrett has again dumped what's his name, Bill Murray, for being a fool. And
I mean that was going to happen.
That was a good way to write her out. She probably didn't want to do the game, but it does have Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and then the other two were also there. It just doesn't have Louis Tully because I guess he was signed to that Disney contract.
I think he stopped acting, didn't he?
No, he still does voice acting for Disney movies. I think he's on a long-term Eddie Murphy sort of deal with them. George, can you play Ghost Ride the Whip?
No, that's
play Ghost Ride the Whip. Yeah, this is what happens. A reporter comes, sees Bill Murray leaving a bar and says, in Japan or wherever he's living, Mr. Murray, will you do a Ghostbusters 3? And Bill Murray, Associated Press reports Bill Murray optimistic about Ghostbusters. Oh, there is a movie, Brian. What's that World War II movie where they're John Goodman and what's his name?
Yeah. It's George Clooney, Matt Damon, and it's called Monument Men. Bill Murray is also in it, and they basically play curators who are like they're trying to steal paintings and art that the Nazis are trying to destroy from the Jews.
That looks cool. I want to see that.
Yeah.
I'm not usually into gimmicky World War II movies. I do like World War II, but that looks funny.
Right, and the thing is that I was like, wait a minute, is this like Ocean's 11 circa World War II?
Yeah.
But when I saw Bill Murray on the screen, I was like, okay, this just got elevated.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, this looks stupid. And I was like, oh, Bill Murray's there.
Yeah, no, Bill Murray. He's maybe my top favorite actor of all time, but he's got to be near the top.
Because think about it, all the camaraderie of a war movie with Bill Murray as part of the platoon.
That's true.
And
I think Bill Murray would like to
know what character he's going to play Bill Murray.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah, man.
You know I'm going in the north to the east. You ain't knowing. Politics, it's a club like that. Trying to hold out a chin. Can't get in the club, got a spark that locked in. I love around and I'm hollering at a pin. What's your vibe? Gave you a whip. By yourself, you need a car.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Oh, play the chorus. The chorus is good.
And you're feeling like a star. Okay. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You're feeling like a star. Okay. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Hop out, all in one motion.
Okay. So the purpose, anyone check out that video. Also check out a comedy video called Grandma Ghost Rides the Whip. And basically ghost riding is if you get a new car, you let the car roll and drive at like 3 miles an hour and you dance next to it down the street. That's America. Okay, let's wrap this up.
All right.
Well, all right. Thank you, everybody. This is Chris and Brian and George from Shooting the Ish, shootingtheish.com, shootingtheish@gmail.com. What else do we have? Facebook.com/shootingtheish, YouTube.com/shootingtheish. You could type us in on iTunes, Shooting the Ish. If you want to download MP3s, go to the website, shootingtheish.com. We have the whole backlog all the way from episode 1.
Twitter as well.
Yes, twitter.com/shootingtheish. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, George, and thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Shooting the Ish.